cursed land. No one who enters this village ever returns in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. Where the savannah meets ancient forest, there lies a village that no map will show you. The locals from neighboring settlements speak of it only in whispers, and only when the moon is hidden. They call it Kivuli, the Shadow Village. For generations, tales have circulated of travelers, explorers, and the merely curious who venture toward its supposed location, never to return to the world of the living. I am Jabari Okello, and I should not be allowed to tell this story. As a journalist for the Nairobi Chronicle, I had dismissed such folklore as superstition, the kind that makes for entertaining fireside tales, but dissolves under the harsh light of reason. When my editor assigned me to investigate the disappearances of 3 university students who had gone looking for Kivuli, I accepted with the confident skepticism of a man who had exposed many frauds and demystified many legends. My journey began in the small town of Mavini, the last outpost of what most would consider civilization before the wilderness takes hold. The town was unremarkable save for one peculiarity. Despite being surrounded by fertile land, its marketplace offered little in the way of locally grown produce. When I inquired about this, eyes darted away from mine. Conversation ceased, and backs turned. It was in Mavini's only bar that I met Kioma, an elderly woman whose eyes carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. Unlike the others, she did not shy away when I mentioned my destination. "You see Kivuli," she said. "It wasn't a question. They all do, eventually. The curious, the brave, the foolish." She took a long sip of her palm wine. "They all become the same in the end." I asked her if she knew anything about the missing students. She nodded slowly. "They passed through 2 weeks ago. Young, laughing, cameras around their necks. They thought they were chasing a story." Her gaze pierced me, just like you. When I pressed for more information, directions, warnings, anything, she reached into a pouch around her neck and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. "If you are determined to die, at least die with your eyes open." She handed me the bundle. Inside was a small amulet made of dark wood, carved with intricate symbols. "Keep this with you. It cannot save you, but it may help you understand before the end." I must have looked skeptical because she left a sound like dry leaves crumbling. "The curse of the educated," she said. "You believe only what your books tell you. But there are older truths in this land, Mr. Journalist. Truths written in blood and bone." That night, I stayed in Mavini's only guest house. The amulet lay on the nightstand, and though I told myself I was being ridiculous, I couldn't bring myself to put it in my bag out of sight. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of walking shadows and whispers in languages I didn't understand, but somehow comprehended on a level deeper than knowledge. I awoke before dawn to find a crude map slid under my door, showing a path through the wilderness that was not on any official charts. At the bottom was scrawled, "Follow at sunrise, no later, no earlier." With the rising sun casting long shadows behind me, I began my journey. The path was barely visible, more suggestion than trail winding through increasingly dense vegetation. Though I had been warned the journey would take a full day, by mid-morning, the landscape had already changed dramatically. The familiar African savanna gave way to a forest that seemed impossibly ancient, with trees I couldn't identify stretching toward a sky that had somehow darkened despite the hour. The air grew thick, humid in a way that felt unnatural. Sounds became muffled, as though the forest itself was absorbing them. The chirping of birds ceased, and even the usual buzzing of insects fell silent. All that remained was the sound of my breathing and the soft crunch of leaves beneath my boots. By noon, I knew something was wrong. My satellite phone showed no signal expected in remote areas, but my compass had begun to spin erratically, and my GPS device displayed coordinates that changed randomly with each glance. According to its screen, I was simultaneously in the middle of the Indian Ocean and the heart of the Sahara. It was then I noticed the amulet growing warm in my pocket. When I took it out, the carved symbol seemed to shift subtly, as if alive. On an impulse I couldn't explain, I hung it around my neck. Immediately, a path I hadn't seen before appeared among the trees, narrow but distinct. What choice did I have? I followed. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes' time had become as unreliable as my compass. The forest grew darker still, though no clouds obscured the sun. The trees themselves seemed to bend inward, creating a canopy that filtered the light into strange, shifting patterns on the ground. More than once, I thought I saw those patterns form into faces' mouths open in silent screams. When I finally stumbled into a clearing, the village of Kivuli stood before me. It was both exactly what I had expected and nothing like it at all. Thatched huts arranged in a perfect circle around a central square. No people visible, but smoke rose from cooking fires. Colorful cloths hung to dry. Wooden bowls sat half filled with food, as if abandoned mid-meal. The village appeared normal, lived in except for the absolute silence and the strange quality of the light, which seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, casting no shadows. I called out. No answer came, but the echo of my own voice, distorted as if traveling back to me through water. The amulet at my chest had grown hot enough to be uncomfortable. The symbols now definitely moved, flowing like liquid across its surface. As I watched, they rearranged into a pattern that resembled a door. I looked up. Across the village square stood a hut larger than the others, its doorway covered by a cloth embroidered with the same symbol now showing on my amulet. Inside, I found not darkness, but radiant light emanating from a figure seated on a simple wooden stool. An elderly man, skin like polished ebony, eyes milky with blindness. Yet somehow I knew he could see me more clearly than I could see myself. Jabari Okello, he said, my name sounding both foreign and more truly mine than ever before on his lips. The curious journalist. You have questions. Many who come here do. Where is everyone? I asked. What happened to the students who came looking for this place? A smile creased his ancient face. Everyone is here. Everyone who ever came to Kivuli remains in Kivuli, including your students. He gestured, and suddenly the hut seemed to expand, its walls pushing outward to encompass the entire village. All around us, translucent figures moved about their daily tasks, hundreds of them, from different times and places. Judging by their clothing, some wore traditional African garb from various regions, others dressed like European explorers from the colonial era, and still others in modern clothes. Among them, I recognized the 3 students from their photographs laughing, taking pictures with cameras that would capture no images. They are here, but not here, the elder said. They walk between worlds now. Are they dead? My voice caught on the last word. Death is a simple thing and ending. This is more complex. He leaned forward. Kivuli exists in the fold between worlds. Those who enter become part of its story. They cannot leave because there is nowhere to go. The village is everywhere and nowhere. I don't understand. Understanding is not required for truth to be truth. He pointed to the amulet. You wear protection given by one who knows. This allows you to see with unclouded eyes, but it will not last. Already it burns against your skin as the magic fades. He was right. The amulet now felt like a coal against my chest. Why does this place exist? What is the purpose of trapping people here? The elder laughed a sound like wind through dry grass. Purpose? Does a river need purpose to flow? Does lightning need reason to strike? Kivuli is because it has always been, since before your ancestors named themselves human. But the curse, there is no curse, he interrupted. Only balance. For every place of light in this world, there must be shadow. For every gathering, there must be a scattering. Kivuli collects those who would disturb certain boundaries. What boundaries? Between the known and the unknown. Between remembering and forgetting. His blind eyes seem to focus directly on mine. Your world forgets too easily, Jabari. It builds steel towers and calls itself immortal while standing on the bones of ancient wisdom. Some things should not be forgotten. A low humming had begun, seemingly coming from the earth itself. The ghostly villagers had stopped their activities and now stood perfectly still, all facing us. They are waiting, the elders said. For what? For you to join them, of course. The amulet's protection wanes with the setting sun. When night falls completely, you will become as they are present, but not present. Here, but not here. Panic rose in my chest. There must be a way out. I'm not meant to stay here. No one is meant to stay. Yet all do. That is the nature of Kivuli. I looked desperately at the ghostly figures surrounding us. Please, I called out. Help me. To my surprise, one figure stepped forward, a young woman dressed in the traditional garb of the Maasai, though the bright colors of her clothing appeared faded, washed out. When she spoke, her voice sounded distant, like someone calling from across a vast canyon. There is a way, she said, but it requires sacrifice. The elder's face darkened. Nala speaks of forbidden things. The woman, Nala continued, ignoring him. Kivuli must maintain balance. For one to leave, something of equal value must remain. What does that mean? I asked. It means, the elder interjected, that you may leave your body and remain as spirit, or you may leave your spirit and depart as empty flesh. Neither is a fate to desire. Nala shook her head. There is a third way, unknown to most, but possible. She approached me, her movements leaving trailing after images in the air. The amulet you wear, it contains power. Old magic. It can be sacrificed in your place, but only if freely given, and only if it holds meaning beyond its purpose. I touched the amulet, which had begun to smoke slightly against my skin. This. Kioma gave it to me just yesterday. It holds no special meaning to me. Are you certain? Nala asked. Look deeper. I examined the amulet more carefully. The wood was dark, polished by what must have been decades of handling. The symbols, though still moving, had a familiar quality to them, like a half-remembered dream. And then I saw it, tiny and nearly worn away, at the edge of the carving, my family's ancestral mark. The same symbol my grandmother had shown me as a child, telling me it represented our lineage back to the time before records. This belonged to my family. The elder sighed heavily. Now you begin to understand. Nothing in Kivuli is coincidence. Kioma is more than she appears. She's from here, isn't she? From Kivuli. She walks between, as few can. Nala said, she has been watching your family for generations, waiting for one who might need to make this journey. The humming from the earth grew louder. Outside the hut, darkness was falling rapidly. You must decide quickly, Nala urged. The amulet contains memories, your ancestral memories, passed down through blood and bone. If you sacrifice it, those memories remain here forever, feeding Kivuli. You may leave, but a part of your heritage stays behind. And if I don't, then all of you stays. The elder said simply, body and spirit, past and future. The amulet now burned so fiercely, I could smell my own flesh beginning to scorch. The pain was incredible, yet somehow distant, as if happening to someone else. Around us, the ghostly villagers had begun to fade as true night approached, their forms becoming less distinct, merging with the shadows that stretched from every corner. Choose, Nala whispered. I thought of my life, my work, my family, all that awaited me back in the world I knew. I thought of the students, trapped here forever, and countless others before them. Then I thought of my grandmother, telling me stories of our ancestors around a fire, much like those that burned in this village. Never forget who you are, she had told me. In remembering, we live forever. What was I sacrificing? Memories I never knew I had, a heritage I had largely ignored in my pursuit of modern success. The amulet flared white hot against my chest. I choose to leave, I said, the words torn from me in agony. Take the amulet. Take the memories. Nala's hands, insubstantial as mist, reached for the amulet. As her fingers touched it, a shock ran through my entire body. Images flashed behind my eyes, generations of my family, rituals, and celebrations. Wisdom passed in whispers, power hidden in plain sight. 1,000 years of knowing, compressed into seconds. And then, darkness. I awoke on the outskirts of Mavini, the rising sun warming my face. My clothes were torn, my body scratched and bruised as if I'd run through thorny underbrush all night. Around my neck, nothing, the amulet gone, leaving only a circular burned scar over my heart. In my pocket, I found my phone, my wallet, all my belongings except for my notebook containing all my research about Kivuli. In its place was a small, smooth stone with a single symbol etched into it. A door, half open. I returned to Nairobi and filed my story, not the truth, which no one would believe, but a sanitized version about local superstitions and how the missing students had likely fallen victim to wild animals or exposure. My editor was disappointed, expecting something more sensational. I couldn't bring myself to care. Sometimes at night, I dream of Kivuli. I see the ghostly villagers, the elder with his blind eyes, and Nala, always Nala, watching me with an expression that might be sorrow or might be envy. I see the 3 students, forever young, forever curious, forever lost. And sometimes, in that space between waking and sleep, I catch glimpses of memories that should be mine, but aren't quite, fragments of ancestral knowledge, echoes of power I once might have claimed. I never returned to Mavini, never sought out Kioma to ask the questions that burn in my mind. Some mysteries, I've learned, are better left unexplored. Some knowledge comes at too high a price, but I leave this account, my true account, in the hopes that it might save others from my fate or worse, the fate of those who remain in Kivuli. If you hear whispers of a village that appears on no map, if locals fall silent when you ask direct questions, if an old woman offers you an amulet that seems strangely familiar, turn back. Return to the world you know. For the curse of Kivuli is not that no one returns. The curse is that those who do return leave the most important parts of themselves behind. And in the shadow of Kilimanjaro, in a village that exists everywhere and nowhere, those parts live on, remembering what we have chosen to forget.